Opening ranges versus table dynamics. In online poker games, your default opening charts are a starting point, not a contract. The money comes from adjusting to who is left to act, how they respond to opens, and how the blinds behave when you multi-table. If you open the same range into every lineup, you are donating expected value to the table and paying rake for the privilege. We are talking pre-flop, so the goal is simple. Put money in when you are likely to realize equity, deny equity, or win outright. When the table makes that easier, you open more. When the table makes that harder, you tighten up and shift into a range that performs well versus the specific mistake pool in front of you. Start with your default, then adjust hard. Your baseline open is built around position, stack depth, and rake. In most online pools, rake punishes thin, multi-way pots, so your default button open should be aggressive but not reckless. The adjustment layer is where you print. Think in expected value terms. An open is profitable when, first, folds happen often enough so your immediate profit is real. Second, when called, your range realizes equity well, meaning you can get to showdown or win with barrels at a good frequency. Third, you avoid getting 3-bet so much that your open becomes a donate and fold routine. So every adjustment is really a response to two things: fold equity before the flop and realization after the flop. Context dictates strategy, and the biggest context variable is who is left to act. Who is left to act controls everything. Players focus on position, but they forget the hidden layer. What matters is the combination of position plus the players behind. Opening cutoff with 2 passive nits behind is not the same as opening cutoff with 2 aggressive regulars behind. Use this mental shortcut. Ask one question before every open. How often am I going to face a 3-bet? If the answer is often, you cannot profitably open the same junk that works versus tight blinds. If the answer is rarely, you can widen and pressure the blinds relentlessly. Adjusting versus tight and passive tables. When the table is folding too much, you should be stealing constantly. This is where your red line can explode in online environments, especially if the blinds are playing fit or fold. First, widen late position opens, especially button and cutoff. Add suited kings, suited gappers, and more offsuit broadways that play fine in position. Second, open smaller when it increases your steal volume without triggering more 3-bets. Many pools respond poorly to smaller opens, calling too wide and then overfolding post-flop. Third, prioritize playability over raw equity. Hands like King 9 suited and Queen 10 suited realize better in position than hands like Ace 7 offsuit, even if the raw equity looks close. This is not about gambling. It is about taking every profitable spot to win 1.5 blinds while avoiding rake. Heavy, low-edge lines. If they do not defend, you punish them. Adjusting versus aggressive. 3 bettors behind. If you have a thinking regular on the button and an active small blind, your cutoff open range has to respect that. Getting 3-bet at high frequency kills the expected value of your weakest opens, because you either fold too much or defend in awful shapes. First, tighten the bottom of your range and seats where you are exposed. Cut hands that cannot continue versus 3-bets, like weak offsuit broadways and dominated aces. Second, shift to hands that defend well. Suited broadways, suited aces, and connected suited hands have clearer calls and 4-bet bluffs when stacks are 100 big blinds plus. Third, open with a plan. If you open King-Jack offsuit knowing you fold to every 3-bet, you are lighting money on fire. Relative strength is everything, and King-Jack offsuit becomes a liability when the table forces you into a fold too often. Also watch sizing tells. On most online sites, players use larger 3-bet sizes out of the blinds when they are linear and value heavy. Against that profile, you can open slightly wider and fold more, because they are not attacking you properly. Against smaller, frequent 3-bets, you need more 4-bet bluffs and more calls, which means your open range must be constructed, not just expanded. Adjusting versus calling stations and sticky blinds. Some tables do not 3-bet much, but they call everything, especially in the big blind. This is a different problem because you lose fold equity and you get dragged into rake-heavy pots. First, tighten your steals slightly and raise your average hand strength. If big blind defends 70% and never folds flop, your suited trash loses its purpose. Second, value bias your opening range in the marginal regions. Favor hands that make top pair with good kickers, strong draws, and nut potential. Third, open bigger if they are insensitive to price. If they call 2.5x and 3.5x at the same frequency, charge them. You are building a pot for your value region and denying equity to their weakest junk. This is where passive players mislead you into playing too many hands. Do not. You want fewer, higher quality pots. Versus stations, because your edge comes from value betting, not from trying to bluff people who enjoy clicking call. Short stacks, deep stacks, and wide depth changes opens. At 100 big blinds plus, suited connectors and suited aces go up in value, because you can win big pots when you make strong hands and apply pressure on turns and rivers. At shallower stacks, those same hands lose implied odds and play more like equity blobs. In online poker, depth also changes the 3-bet and 4-bet ecosystem. Deep stacks encourage more 3-bet calls and post-flop maneuvering, so you can justify opening hands that have robust realization. Shallow stacks push the game toward pre-flop all-ins and high-leverage spots, which makes dominated hands bleed faster. First, deep and passive behind, widen with suited, connected hands that play well post-flop. Second, deep and aggressive behind, tighten the bottom and keep hands that can call 3-bets or 4-bet bluff. Third, shallow, cut the speculative fringe and prioritize high card strength and clean equity. Rake is real, so stop creating thin junk pots. Rake is not an excuse to play scared, but it is a tax you must respect. In many online pools, the worst leak is opening too wide in rake-heavy environments, then going multi-way, then trying to realize equity with hands that do not make strong top pairs. Your adjustment is simple. When the table is calling too much and you are not getting folds, the expected value of your weakest opens collapses. Tighten the bottom, increase value density, and make your money from clean value bets and strong draw pressure, not hope poker. Hand scenario: the squeeze magnet cutoff. Game: 100 NL online, 100 big blinds effective. Hero is in cutoff with 8-7 suited, spades. Button is a strong regular who 3-bets frequently. Small blind is competent and likes to squeeze. Big blind is a recreational caller. Pre-flop, folds to hero. In a vacuum, cutoff open with 8-7 suited is fine. But with 2 aggressive players left to act who attack wide opens, the expected value changes. Hero chooses to tighten and folds. Why this is correct: if hero opens to 2.5 big blinds, button and small blind can 3-bet at a high frequency. 8-7 suited does not have the cleanest continues. Versus bigger blind 3-bet sizes and calling out a position, versus a squeeze is a realization nightmare. You end up folding too often after investing 2.5 big blinds, or you defend and pay rake in a low-equity, high-pressure pot. The fold preserves expected value so you can open hands that either continue comfortably versus 3-bets, or print when called. Alternative lineup: if button is passive and small blind is tight, this becomes an open. You would expect more big blind calls, so you value the position and playability. Same hand, different table, different decision. How you build an adjustment checklist. When you're playing multiple tables online, you need a fast process. Here's your pre-flop checklist before you click open. First, players behind. Who can to 3-bet me and how often? Second, blind defense. Do they overfold, overcall, or over 3-bet? Third, post-flop tendencies. Will they fold to spets or will they float and force turns? Fourth, stack depth. Does my hand gain expected value from implied odds or does it need immediate fold equity? Fifth, rake profile. Am I about to create a thin, rake-punished pot? If you answer those 5 questions, your opening strategy becomes a weapon. You are no longer memorizing ranges. You are making profitable, repeatable decisions based on how the table actually behaves. Key takeaway: your default open is only step 1. Adjust based on who is left to act, how often you face 3-bets, and whether the blinds overfold or overcall. Widen when you expect folds and clean in position realization. Tighten when aggressive players can punish the bottom of your range or when sticky blinds drag you into rake-heavy pots. Open every hand with a plan for the most likely response. Now, let's test your edge. Question 1. What are the two main drivers the article says every pre-flop opening adjustment responds to? Answer: fold equity before the flop and realization after the flop. Explanation: the article frames adjustments as reacting to how often opponents fold pre-flop and how well your range can realize equity post-flop when called. Question 2. What single question does the article recommend asking before every open as a mental shortcut? Answer: how often am I going to face a 3-bet? Explanation: the frequency of facing 3-bets determines whether you can profitably include weaker opens or must tighten to avoid donating expected value. Question 3. According to the article, how should you adjust late position opens on tight and passive tables that fold too much? Answer: widen late position opens, especially button and cutoff, and steal more. Explanation: when opponents overfold, especially fit or fold blinds, you can profit by increasing steal volume and repeatedly winning the blinds. Question 4. In the squeeze magnet cutoff scenario, what does hero do pre-flop with 8-7 suited and why? Answer: hero folds because frequent 3-bets and squeezes make realization poor and the open becomes an expected value leak. Explanation: with aggressive players behind, 8-7 suited faces high, 3-bet frequency and difficult out-of-position continues, causing too many invest and fold outcomes, or rake heavy, pressured pots. Question 5. What are the 5 items in the article's pre-flop adjustment checklist? Answer: players behind, blind defense, post-flop tendencies, stack depth, and rake profile. Explanation: the checklist is designed for multi-tabling and forces you to quantify who can 3-bet, how blinds respond, how post-flop plays out, whether depth helps your hand, and if rake makes the spot thin. Study hard, play smart. That's it for now. I'll see you in the next lesson.